Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that has fascinated people for centuries.
Time travel.
It really is one of those concepts that just captures the imagination, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who hasn't dreamed of zipping back to the past or maybe even taking a peek into the future?
Exactly. And the thing is, time travel isn't just the stuff of science fiction.
That's right. We actually have some real-world examples thanks to Einstein's theory of relativity. We'll be looking at a scholarly article that breaks down the science of time travel, and a list of time travel works from Wikipedia, and even some analysis of how all this is depicted in stories.
And what's really intriguing is how time travel forces us to confront some fundamental questions about the nature of reality, cause and effect, and even our own place in the grand scheme of things.
So to kick things off, let me ask you this. Is time travel just a fun plot device, or could it actually happen? What do you think?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And the answer might surprise you. When it comes to traveling to the future, well, it's actually possible. Wait, really?
Really? It all comes down to this concept called time dilation. You see, according to Einstein's theory of special relativity, time is not absolute.
What do you mean by not absolute?
I mean, it doesn't flow at the same rate for everyone everywhere. Time can actually be affected by things like speed and gravity.
So the faster you travel, the slower time goes for you.
Precisely. And we've actually observed this phenomenon in real life. Think about astronauts on the International Space Station. They're orbiting the Earth at incredibly high speeds.
So fast that their clocks actually run a tiny bit slower than clocks here on Earth.
That's right. It's a tiny difference, but it's measurable. And in a way, those astronauts are experiencing a form of time travel. They're aging just slightly slower than the rest of us down here on Earth.
So like real-life time travelers. That's incredible.
It is. And here's another mind-blowing fact. We also see evidence of time dilation in particle accelerators. You know those massive machines that scientists use to smash atoms together?
Yeah, I've heard of them. But what does that have to do with time travel?
Well, in these accelerators, scientists can accelerate tiny particles to nearly the speed of light.
Hold on, close to the speed of light. Isn't that like the ultimate speed limit in the universe?
It is. And because those particles are traveling so incredibly fast, their internal clocks actually slow down relative to the laboratory clocks. It's like they're taking a tiny leap into the future.
So time really is relative, isn't it? It's not this fixed, rigid thing that we all experience in exactly the same way.
Exactly. And that's what makes time travel such a fascinating concept to explore.
This is already blowing my mind. It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
I know, right? But it's real science. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to exploring the mysteries of time travel.
I can't wait to dive deeper.
Now, we've talked about traveling to the future, but what about going back in time?
Ah, that's the real head scratcher, isn't it? I mean, going back to the past, that's what really gets people excited, right? All those what-if scenarios, could we change things, relive moments? It's fascinating. And our sources definitely reflect that.
Yeah. Time travel to the past is definitely more of a gray area, much more so than time travel to the future.
Right. I mean, we were just talking about how astronauts on the space station are technically time travelers, right?
Exactly. But going back in time, well, that's where things get a bit more complicated and even potentially paradoxical.
Speaking of paradoxes, one of the sources we have talks about this thing called the grandfather paradox. Have you heard of that?
Oh, absolutely. The grandfather paradox is a classic thought experiment in the world of time travel. It basically goes like this.
What if, and this is where it gets really weird, what if you traveled back in time and accidentally prevented your grandparents from ever meeting?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh, because if they never met, they wouldn't have had your parents. And if your parents were never born, well, then you wouldn't exist either.
So the paradox is that if you never existed, how could you have traveled back in time to prevent your grandparents from meeting in the first place? A real mind bender.
It makes your head spin, right? Like a dog chasing its tail.
It really does. The grandfather paradox is a great example of how time travel to the past raises all sorts of logical and philosophical questions. I mean, it challenges our very understanding of cause and effect.
And it gets even weirder. There's this other idea, something called closed timelike curves, or CTCs. I mean, just the name sounds like something out of a physics textbook.
It does sound pretty intimidating, doesn't it? But it's a really fascinating concept. You see, a CTC is essentially a path in space-time that loops back on itself.
So imagine a racetrack where the finish line is also the starting line.
That's a great analogy. And theoretically, if you were traveling along a CTC, you could end up back at a point in your own past.
So it's like a cosmic shortcut, a way to bend time and space to revisit a moment that's already happened. But wouldn't that create all kinds of paradoxes?
It certainly could, and that's why the concept of CTCs is still very much in the realm of theoretical physics.
So we're not building time machines that can take us back to the Jurassic period anytime soon.
Probably not. But even if time travel to the past turns out to be impossible, there's still so much we can learn and explore just by thinking about it. And that's what makes time travel stories so captivating, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Those stories really make us grapple with some big questions. Like, what if we could change the past? What are the consequences of our choices? And how does our understanding of time shape the way we view ourselves and the world around us?
Exactly. And even beyond the paradoxes and scientific challenges, time travel stories often tap into our deepest hopes and fears about the future.
Speaking of the future, one of the sources we're looking at today talks about how a lot of time travel stories set in the future can kind of fall flat. Have you noticed that?
I have. It's almost like, well, if we know they're back here in the present telling the story, then whatever happened in the future can't have been that bad, right?
Right. And that can make it hard to really get invested in the story because you know that no matter what happens in the future, the characters are going to be okay.
So it's like the stakes aren't as high when you know everyone's going to be back home, safe and sound in the end.
It's like, okay, cool, you went to the future, but you're back now, so what's the big deal? What really gets me thinking, though, is this whole idea of the block universe. I mean, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a serious theory in physics. And it suggests that the past, present, and future might all exist simultaneously.
Hold on, so you're saying that every moment in time, from the Big Bang to the end of the universe, is already out there? Like some kind of cosmic film strip?
That's one way to think about it. The block universe theory challenges our intuitive notion of time as a flowing river. It suggests that time is more like a vast, interconnected structure where all moments coexist.
Whoa, okay, so it's not that time is moving forward, it's more like we're moving through time, right?
Exactly. Think of it like a loaf of bread, where each slice represents a different moment in time. The entire loaf, all those moments, already exists. We're just experiencing each slice one at a time as we move through the loaf.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But if all moments already exist, wouldn't that mean that our future is predetermined? That we don't really have free will?
That's a common misconception about the block universe theory. And it's not necessarily true. You see, even if all moments exist, we still have the ability to choose how we experience those moments and what actions we take within them.
Okay, so even if the whole tapestry of time is already woven, we can still move within it, make our own choices, and create our own experiences.
That's a great way to put it. And I think it's a powerful message to take away from our exploration of time travel. Even if we never build a time machine, we still have the power to shape our present and influence our future through the choices we make today.
So time travel might not be about physically going back to the past or forward to the future, but it is about exploring the nature of time itself and how our understanding of time shapes the way we live our lives. All right, we've been doing a lot of talking, but now we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on time travel? What are your favorite time travel stories? What questions do you have about the science or the philosophy of time travel?
And most importantly, if you could travel through time, where would you go and what would you hope to find?
Share your thoughts on our website, social media, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love to hear from you.
Welcome back, everyone. We've been on quite a journey exploring the ins and outs of time travel, haven't we? And it seems like no matter how deep we go, there's always more to discover and more questions to ponder.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Time travel is one of those concepts that just keeps on giving. It makes you think, makes you question, and pushes the boundaries of our imagination.
You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me is how much we seem to be drawn to the idea of traveling to the past.
It's definitely a popular theme in science fiction, isn't it? And I think it speaks to a very human desire to revisit moments from our own lives or maybe even get a glimpse of history firsthand. It's like, what if I could go back and make a different choice? Or see what life was like in a different era? I mean, wouldn't you jump at the chance to walk with dinosaurs or chat with Cleopatra?
Haha, I think we all have those what-if moments, don't we? But of course, as we've discussed, time travel to the past is full of potential paradoxes and unintended consequences.
Yeah, the grandfather paradox is a good reminder that messing with the past could have some pretty serious repercussions.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of considering the ripple effects of our actions, not just in the present, but potentially across time itself.
It's like, even if we never build a time machine, maybe we should still think about our choices as having a ripple effect, you know? Like maybe everything we do sends little waves out into the universe, influencing the course of events in ways we might never fully understand.
That's a fascinating thought, isn't it? And it brings us back to the idea that time is this interconnected web where past, present, and future are all intertwined. We were just talking about that before the break, remember? The block universe.
Yeah, the whole loaf of bread analogy, it still boggles my mind a
It's
bit.
mine too, sometimes. But it's a powerful concept that challenges our linear way of thinking about time.
And it makes you wonder, even if we could travel through time, would it really change anything? Or would we just be caught in this infinite loop of interconnected moments?
That's a question for the philosophers, I think. But it speaks to the idea that maybe the most important journey we can take is not through time, but through our own understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
You know, shifting gears a bit, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of time travel stories set in the future just don't seem to have the same kind of dramatic punch.
Oh, you mean because if they're back here in the present telling us the story, then they must have made it back, okay.
Exactly. It takes away some of the suspense. It's like watching a movie where you already know the ending.
That's a good point. It can be a real challenge for writers to create a sense of danger or uncertainty when the audience knows the characters are ultimately going to be fine.
Right. So how do you write a good time travel story then? I mean, one that keeps people on the edge of their seats.
I think it comes down to focusing on the human element. Time travel, at its core, is about exploring what it means to be human, to exist within the constraints of time, and to grapple with the consequences of our choices.
So it's not just about the gadgets and the gizmos. It's about the people and the stories they tell. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And that journey can be full of twists and turns, emotional highs and lows, and unexpected discoveries.
Thinking back to some of the time travel stories we've discussed, it seems like the ones that really work, the ones that really resonate with audiences, are the ones that have clear rules, you know, about how time travel works, what the limitations are, and what the consequences might be.
Absolutely. Having a consistent set of rules helps ground the story in a sense of logic, even if it's dealing with these mind-bending concepts.
It's like a game, you know? You might not agree with all the rules, but as long as everyone's playing by the same set, you can at least follow along and understand what's going on.
Right. And those rules can even become a source of tension and drama in the story.
Like in that Avengers movie, Endgame. I thought they did a really good job of creating a system for time travel that felt consistent and believable.
I agree. It added a layer of complexity and consequence to the story. The characters couldn't just go back and change things willy-nilly. They had to really think about the potential ripple effects and make some tough choices.
Yeah. It made the whole thing feel more real, more grounded, and it kept me guessing until the very end.
Me too. And you know, it's funny because even though we're talking about time travel as this fantastical concept, it actually makes you think about the choices we make in our own lives and how those choices have consequences that ripple out into the world around us.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're all part of this interconnected web of time and experience. And even if we never build a working time machine, the idea of time travel will continue to inspire us, challenge us, and make us wonder about the mysteries of the universe.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a real pleasure diving into this topic with you and exploring the possibilities of time travel.
Likewise. And thanks to all of you for joining us on this incredible journey.
Until next time, keep those imaginations firing.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll crack the code of time travel and make all those fantastical stories a reality.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
Thanks again for listening, everyone.